Well, Wang went bust. So, lesson one, don't be over dependent upon any single supplier. So I ended up driving up on a Monday morning with a few suits and 5 shirts, driving home on a Friday night, and during the week sleeping on the couch in the office. The tax man after me for some tax I owed, kids in private school, had to sell the toys in the garage. It was tough. It was a really horrible time, actually. Went back to the hotel with my 2 business partners, and I said, I'm quitting. I don't want to do the earn out. I'm going to move on because I've heard about this thing called the internet.
All right, okay.
Somebody once said, look, you've got a playbook as to how to launch a business, and it's sales led. You can have the best product in the world, but you haven't got sales, you haven't got a business. I would say, don't drive the money makers out of this country. There was talk about capital gains tax going from 20% up to income tax levels, 45%. I would have left the country. So I'd be saying, look, just be very careful about further moves that you make that are affecting wealthy people, business founders, because if you keep hitting them, they're going to go, and the money will leave the country.
Phil, welcome to the podcast. Good to see you.
Thank you, Alan. It's only my 2nd ever podcast.
Well, we are privileged to have you here. And I've been, as I do, been doing some research on you, and I got to say that if anyone defines the term serial entrepreneur, it's you. You've been very busy over the last number of years, haven't you? You've achieved quite a lot of great successes, a few bumps in the road, I think, from my research. I mean, I'd like to really sort of get into that and unpack it all and chat it through. But I'm always intrigued by how the whole journey began in the first place. Like, what was your first entrepreneurial journey? What was how did you get started in this world?
Well, I guess like many of your guests, what you do in your sort of younger years, your childhood sort of influences, where you go. So paper round at age 12, head paper boy soon after, marking up the papers, opening the shop at 5:30 in the morning, every day of the week, working in the shop at weekends, working in the kitchens at Gatwick Airport in the summer holidays, all those sorts of things.
Okay.
And I saved enough money so when I was 16, I could go out and buy a motorbike. But all that hard work probably didn't help my education.
Right.
So I left school at 16 with 2 CSEs, as they used to call them, in woodwork and religious education.
Perfect combination.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, like most 16-year-olds, didn't really know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But my dad, who at the time was chief inspector of police in our hometown in Crawley, got me an interview with the local bank manager. So I got a job at NatWest Bank.
Wow.
And that's how it started.
That was your first job.
And my first job. And the only good outcome of that was that's where I met my wife, Rosie.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. But I love that initial story, that early stage. And I think, because I've got, children now at that sort of age as teenagers. And this, I don't know, I mean, I did a paper round myself when I was young in the frozen north of Scotland, which is a different experience altogether as well. But there seems to be a kind of, I don't know, bit of a lack of appetite. But that early stage, what hard work looked like. Yeah. And perhaps more importantly, you knew what making your own money looked like as well. And then you had a degree, I guess, of self-control. You could use the proceeds of your efforts to go and buy something that otherwise you might not have had, in this case, a motorbike.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it gives you the taste of money.
Yeah.
And it's not going to appeal to everyone, but it certainly appealed to me.
Yeah. Well, you could create your own wealth by sort of swapping your time and your energy and your effort, and you get rewarded for it.
Yeah. And I guess it was my first experience also at cold calling, because in the evenings, building up to Christmas, you'd go round the paper round and you'd bang on the doors that you deliver the papers to in the morning and say, hello, I'm your morning paper boy. I'd like to wish you a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, very good, very good. And I'm sure that held you in good stead in future years in terms of cold calling and opening up opportunities. Fantastic. So what was the experience at NatWest? How long were you there, and what was next?
I was only there about 9 months.
Okay.
Didn't enjoy it. It was just very sort of basic admin type work, printing checkbooks, that sort of stuff. And I wanted a car, and I saw an advert in the local advertiser, trainee salesman, company car. So I thought, I want a car. I'm going to go for that job.
Right. Okay.
And I regard that as my lucky break.
Right.
So the owner of the business, Peter Smith, gave me a job as a trainee office equipment salesperson. So they were selling office stationery, typewriters,
Right.
shredders, all those sorts of things. So that was my breakaway from NatWest. People said to me, "You're mad." My family, people I work with at the bank, why are you giving up a secure job in the bank
Of course.
where your
Yeah.
future is bright
Yeah.
to become a salesman? You must be mad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, that's what happened.
Right. So you're in there, and you're increasingly getting a taste for this. And interestingly, you're prepared to, I guess, pivot and take a risk, because you're right. That's maybe not so much now. I don't know, but a secure job in a bank seems like a job for life, and you get a pension and you get all sorts of
Cheap
other.
mortgage.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you walked away from it
Yeah.
at an early stage. So that you're showing a degree of, I suppose, bravery and commitment to what you would rather do yourself. So you're doing that, and I guess you're getting into sales then in this role.
That was the entree to sales. Every Thursday evening, Peter Smith would do a sales training course.
Right.
There are about 20 salespeople
Right.
in the business across different offices. My apprenticeship was cleaning typewriters to get them ready for the salespeople.
Right.
And then eventually they'd let you go and deliver a typewriter to a customer.
Right.
And then after that, well, we're now going to give you a patch and you can have a go at selling.
Okay.
With a bit of guidance from your sales manager.
Yeah. How old were you then?
17.
Right. So you're still really young.
Yeah.
Aren't you? And you're sort of out there selling equipment.
And the technology of the day was the golf ball typewriter.
Right. Okay.
So, a typewriter with a ball that looked like a golf ball that would go side to side on the carriage.
Yeah.
And then the electronic typewriter came along where you could store initially a couple of lines of text like "Yours sincerely, Alan Smith."
Right. Yeah.
And then the memories got bigger and you could store more stuff like standard paragraphs.
Okay.
So that's how I got going. And I was with that business for a few years.
Uh-huh.
And then Xerox were just launching their own typewriter product. And Xerox had an office in my local town. And I thought, well, I quite fancied moving from, to use a football analogy, I felt like I was in the sort of the Champions League and I now wanted to move up to the Premier League.
Right.
And get into a company like Xerox.
Mm.
So I just wrote them a letter, got an interview, got the job. And so I was probably 20 when I joined them, one of their youngest salespeople.
All right. So and you're selling Xerox equipment to
Xerox
corporate customers.
Yeah. Xerox typewriters, word processors. Although people think of them as a photocopier company,
Yeah.
Their typewriter word process division was quite significant.
Mm.
And they gave me Kent as my patch, which was a graveyard of many good salesmen.
Right. Okay.
And they sent me off to their training school in Newport Pagnell, which we used to refer to as the University of Selling.
Okay.
And it was 6 weeks residential sales training. It was fantastic.
Really good. I think just to sort of pause on that for a second, this whole concept of selling, it seems to me it's almost become a bit of a sort of dying art. In my profession and financial services, in my early days working for a big corporate, there was a lot of training, a lot of sales training, and it was it is an art and it's a science, and I don't see that happening a lot anymore. Some of these big companies, it became almost a dirty word.
Yeah.
We're more into like whatever relationship building and opening accounts with companies, but good old fashioned selling. I think there's nothing better if you get it right. So
That's right.
You were getting some great training.
We got some great training. And I guess in financial services, the equivalent would have been people like Abbey Life or Ally Dunbar.
Yeah, for sure.
And in technology, it was Xerox, it was Olivetti, people like that. And it doesn't exist today, not that I'm aware of. And yeah, I think and selling, I think it's quite different nowadays to what it was then.
Yeah, I'm sure it is, but we ought to be able to adapt to the sort of current environment and current technology and what have you. But nevertheless, it remains a much a very important skill.
Yeah,
I would say, and I'm guessing throughout, and we'll obviously be talking about this, that it served you in good stead, some of that early training as you sort of developed your own entrepreneurial career. Because at the end of the day, nothing happens until something gets sold.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also, just it gave you the discipline. You've got to bang on as many doors as you can.
Mm.
And I remember when I was at Xerox, recently joined, I had all these smart people around me, older, smarter, well-educated. And I thought, well, the only way I'm going to beat them in the sales league table is to put in more hours, bang on more doors than they do, and just put the effort in. And that's what I did. And I had 2 fantastic years at Xerox.
Right.
They had something called Honours Club. So if you hit your target, you're in the Honours Club.
Yeah.
We had holidays to Madeira, to Kenya, to Monaco.
Nice.
They knew how to look after people. It's very good.
Yeah. I'm sure. Well, that's how it works, because no doubt you were successful at selling their products and services, and they were rewarding you appropriately for it. It's a bit of a win-win for everyone. If the customer's happy as well, that's
exactly. And and the earnings were just getting better and better and better every year.
Yeah. Nice. You said so you were only there for 2 years. Then.
2 years.
You really enjoyed it. So why would you leave?
So there was a company called Wang.
Yeah.
Do you remember Wang?
Yeah, I do remember them.
So this is
not around anymore, are they?
No, this is early 80s.
Right.
1984.
Right.
I met somebody, one of the salesmen that works at Wang. He said, you should come to our offices, have a look. And I went to their offices, and their car park was like an H.R. Owen showroom. It was full of Porsches, Ferraris, Rolls Royces. And I thought, I want some of that. I'm going to join Wang.
This is the company for me. Yeah.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
And in the early mid 80s, they were seen as the the number one provider of word processing machines.
Right.
It's either Wang or IBM.
Right. Okay.
So it's at that time when there was that catchphrase, nobody got fired for buying IBM.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Exactly.
Wang were a good company.
And you were doing a similar sort of role there?
Same role.
Yeah.
Selling word processors. I was given East London as my patch, another awful sort of graveyard for many good salesmen.
Yeah.
I had 2 years, nearly 2 years at Wang.
Right.
And then Wang had a network of dealers, resellers. And one of them approached me and said, if you come and join us, commission only, but if you do the same number of deals you're doing there at Wang, you'll earn a lot more money.
Right.
So I took the decision, took the risk, left Wang, gave up the corporate job, gave back the company car, and joined a dealer on a commission-only basis.
Like self-employed, effectively.
Self-employed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went out and bought a car.
Yeah.
And it was a good move because I did the same number of deals as I was doing at Wang, and I made a lot more money.
Yeah. So you had a car parked in the car park eventually as well.
I had a nice car, yeah.
Along with everyone else. What I'm getting from this, Phil, is that you really backed yourself and take risks right from an early stage. You're prepared to walk away from back to the bank, really, and subsequent roles that you had after that. You prepared to take a risk, to walk away from what was pretty safe and secure, to look for something a bit better.
Yeah, so that was 1986 or 85 when I joined the dealer. I was 24.
Right.
And after 6 months, I thought, I'm making this bloke a lot of money, the bloke that owns this business. I'm doing all right, but he's doing even better.
Right.
Why don't I set up my own dealership? So I approached Wang to see if I could become a Wang dealer, which meant buying a lot of stock. So I went to the bank and said, can I borrow 50 grand? Put the house up as security.
Really?
And opened an office in Croydon initially.
Yeah.
And in those days, you couldn't just rent a desk anywhere. You had to take out a 3 or 5 year lease on an office.
Right.
So I rented a office, 1,000 square foot, kitted it out with about a dozen desks, a couple of meeting rooms, phone system, and on day one it was me. And the secretary that I poached from Wang, got her to come and join me.
Yeah.
And that was my first business.
That's an incredible story, really, if you think about it. Really backed yourself. You should go to the bank and take on debt, and it's personal debt, effectively.
Yeah.
They've got to
house is up for security.
This doesn't work out. You could potentially lose your house.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. You mentioned meeting your wife back at the bank. What were you married by this time, or?
Yeah. I got married when I was 19. So
you don't mess around.
1981.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, we're married. We had a son already, Ben, who in 1986, when I started the business, was 3.
Wow.
And my wife was pregnant, about to give birth to our daughter, Lucy. So she was born late February, a few weeks after me starting the business. So I got the call. Rosie's on her way to hospital. So I left the office in Croydon, went to the hospital, saw the birth, back to the office.
Wow. I mean, I must say that's really commendable, because to take that risk is one thing if you're kind of a single guy and you've got to just sort of fend for yourself, which is what I effectively did when I set up by myself. But I wasn't married, didn't have kids, and so the risks were far lower. And I thought, if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. But you're in a different position then. You got mouths to feed, you got toddler and baby on the way, and everything else. I mean, looking back on it, I mean, what was the thought process going through your mind? Was it like never in doubt, or you thought, no, I'm taking a big gamble here. I've got a debt against the house, got kids.
There was little thought about it. And in fact, I guess that's a characteristic of all of my businesses. It's like, this just seems like a good idea. Let's just go with it. No spreadsheets involved. It was just like a gut feeling.
Yeah.
So yeah, in hindsight, it was a big risk, but I was confident.
And your wife backed you. She said, "Yeah,
she backed me.
Trust you. Just do it." Yeah.
And was always very supportive, which is important. That you've got a good, steady home life. No interruptions, because as you know, you've got to be absolutely focused and committed to the business.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it took off. And so within a year, we'd moved from Croydon to London near Tower Bridge. Right. We bought a freehold office, actually. So by this time, I'd bought in a business partner, somebody I'd met at Xerox and who also went to Wang.
Right.
So he joined me as business partner. We bought an freehold office in Bermondsey. And we were quickly becoming one of Wang's biggest and most successful dealers. And it got to the point where we had 10 commission-only salesmen. Most of them were on commission only. A couple of them we paid a basic to. Commission only salesman. We had a car park that also looked like an HRO showroom.
Everyone was doing well.
Yeah. We never paid them a salary, but we gave them a generous car allowance.
Right.
So they all went out and bought Porsches and Jaguars. And
see, I think that's also about knowing your audience. For those sort of salespeople, and I've known a few of them over the years, they're very attracted to a nice car allowance.
Yeah.
And they'll
and they did well. And selling Wang word processors were flying off the shelf.
Yeah,
it was a great time. People moving from typewriters to word processors, and the deal with the salespeople was we split the margin that we make on the kit 50-50.
Yeah,
so we were making 40. We were making a 42% margin on a Wang word processor in 1986 would cost about 6 or 8 grand. So you think in today's money, what's that? 30, 35 grand?
Yeah, probably.
42% margin.
Yeah, nice.
50% to the salesman, 50% to the business.
Happy days.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. So that's effectively, I suppose, your first startup then.
Yeah.
It was a sort of an idea. You decided to get off the ground. You financed it through debt, through the bank. And then you were just off to the races and presumably paid down the debt, and you were sort of free and clear and profitable.
Making good money. At age 27, I went and bought a brand new 911 Porsche.
Nice.
It was, So, we were having a good time.
You were living the dream in those days, weren't you?
It was good.
Married with a couple of young kids, got a nice car, nice business.
Yeah.
And did you own this business entirely, or did you see you brought another partner?
Brought a partner in.
Did he take equity? Did he buy in?
I gave him 50% of the business.
You gave it to him?
Gave it to him.
Okay, very generous.
And he stayed at Wang, let me take the risk.
Yeah.
But I was confident in the contribution he could make, and I have no regrets about that decision. And look, it wasn't without its challenges. Because at the time, our family home was down near the south coast, office by Tower Bridge. I tried commuting. It just took too long.
Yeah.
So I ended up driving up on a Monday morning with a few suits and 5 shirts, driving home on a Friday night, and during the week sleeping on the couch in the office.
Wow, you really did. You slept in the office throughout the week.
Yeah.
Wow. That's like the Elon Musk style. He apparently goes in, sleeps on the factory floor to get stuff done. But this is the point about commitment and sacrifice that a lot of people have to do in those early stage businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So how did that business evolve then? Because obviously you didn't stay there forever.
Well, Wang went bust.
Oh, right, of course he did, didn't he? Yeah.
So lesson 1: don't be over dependent upon any single supplier.
Right. Yeah.
So all we were doing was selling Wang and doing training and maintenance.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, we had nothing to sell.
Hmm.
And my business partner and I had different ideas about where we should take the business. So I offered to buy him out. To my surprise, he turned around and said, well, if you think that's such a good offer, you take it, I'll buy you out.
Right.
So that's what happened.
So he bought you out.
He bought me out. I didn't get a great deal of money, but it was enough to go and buy a brand new Ferrari.
You like your cars, I'm getting that.
And also part of the deal, we had just secured the rights to a piece of software. So part of the deal was I could take that software with me, with the chap that had built the software. So that was my next venture.
Okay, this new company. So tell me about that. How did that
So
go?
it was software for financial advisors,
Right.
to manage all of their back office. So the equivalent today of Intelligent Office.
What was it called?
Finale.
Finale, okay.
So this is 1990.
All right.
In the days of MS-DOS.
Right.
And for many, or probably nearly all of the firms we sold it to, it was their first proper back office piece of software.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of technology around
No,
in those days.
exactly. Early days of PCs,
Yeah.
not a great deal of software. I knew nothing about software, nothing about the financial advice industry. But this chap that built the software, called Victor, was building it for quite a large firm at the time called Bowrings. And basically Victor said, look, I'm building this software, I own the rights to it, but I need 10 grand desperately. So whilst we still had the Wang business, we gave him his 10 grand, bought the rights to the business. And then I just got a few people in the insurance industry that I knew into the room and said, do me a favor, we just look at this software. I'm thinking of sort of launching it as a business. And I got some positive feedback, and Victor carried on writing the software. I set up a little office at home and just got on the blower and started cold calling.
Well, yeah, so we're back to selling then.
Exactly.
That you'd learned from your early days of paper round and getting new customers. And that's what you did, just pick up the phone. Just say, I've got the software,
phone.
would you like to see it?
I paid for a leaflet to be distributed through the Money Marketing Magazine.
Right.
So an industry paper that went out to several thousand firms of IFAs.
Yeah.
And then cold called, read some inbound interest, and then it got going.
A quick pause. You might not be aware that this podcast is a passion project. It's born from my commitment to supporting entrepreneurs through the business stages of scaling up, selling, and in life on the other side. It's the same work we do at Capital Partners, our boutique wealth planning firm, which is dedicated to helping entrepreneurs to gain clarity around their money, their aspirations, and ultimately achieving financial peace of mind. With over 20 years' experience of working with business owners, our team brings deep insight, strategic thinking, and clarity to what can often be complex decisions. So what you're really looking for is a trusted advisor, someone who understands people like you and can offer thoughtful guidance at the intersection of business, family, money, and life. In other words, someone to act as your strategic thinking partner and your financial coach. So if that resonates, feel free to explore more. There's a link in the show notes to our website with tools and resources to support you on your journey. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
Right. And then just built up and then grew the revenues, grew profit, grew income.
And it's quite clever, actually. I sold it as a monthly rental.
Right.
So I can't remember how much, but say £50 a month per firm. Yeah. But then sold for a 3-year term, but then sold that contract to a leasing company who gave me the 3 years rental up front.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. On a sort of discounted amount, or they give you the full amount up front, or they give you a discounted amount up front?
Amount up front. Right. Obviously less their margin.
Right.
So it was like software as a service before software as a service was invented.
Yeah, you were a real pioneer creating an entire new sector.
And we did a great job. We got some quick wins, some very significant market penetration with some big names in the industry at the time, including a couple of networks. And we had about half a dozen people working in my garage at home. Right. So I'd have to get the car out in the morning, spread the desks, so they could all come to work. When they'd left, push the desk back into the corner, put the car back in the garage.
Yeah. That's the way it works. Keeps your costs down
Yeah,
as well.
so that's how we got going. And Victor was there, but then started to discover that the balance sheet in the software that we were selling to IFAs, the balance sheet didn't balance, the profit and loss didn't add up. So,
Right.
we're having customers calling up complaining about the software.
Oh, the actual technology.
Yeah, it wasn't working.
It didn't work.
It didn't work.
Not ideal.
It didn't work as it was meant to work.
Right. Okay.
And I sort of panicked, I guess. Well, what do I do? I haven't got a clue, How am I going to fix this?
Yeah.
So I thought, what I'm going to do, I'm going to see if I can get a bigger business that have got the expertise to acquire me and look after the business.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I sold it to a company called Data Sciences.
Right.
At the time, were part of Thorn EMI, big software company, 100 people, and then they became part of IBM. So they bought the business.
How do you find these deals? Do you just sort of reach out, make calls to people, just say, do you want to buy my business?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just another cold call.
Presumably it wasn't your first call you made. You made a few.
Made a few, but that was one of the early ones.
Right.
And they were selling software primarily to accountants. They were selling tax software. Most accountancy firms had a financial advice arm, so it was a natural sort of cross-sell.
Yeah, you identified them as someone who would be naturally interested in the product, the software that you had.
And I was very open with them. Look, we're selling the product, got good market share, got good reputation in the market, but I need some help with the development because there's a few bugs.
Yeah.
So if you look after the software, I'll keep doing the selling.
Okay.
So that's what happened.
And was that a good deal for you? It's a slightly could be described as a distressed sale, really, although you wouldn't have told them that, but you had to get someone else to come and fix it, it sounds like. But was it a profitable transaction for you?
It was all right. So bearing in mind, 2 years earlier, I'd paid 10 grand for the software.
Yeah.
I just sold it for 150.
That's all right.
It was meant to be 250, but they chipped the price.
Right.
I'll come back to that point later.
Okay.
But then the earn out was good because I got a significant share, commission only again. So I was self-employed. I got a significant share of whatever we sold.
Right, going forward from then. And then were you responsible for making the sales?
Yeah, they tried to build a team, hired about half a dozen people. None of them sold anything.
It's just back to you again.
Yeah.
The good old salesman.
Yeah, but it was good, actually. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Because I've got rid of the aggro and I was doing what I enjoy doing.
Right, okay. You mentioned they're getting chipped on the sale price. Expand on that.
Well, it was they just took advantage of the situation or of maybe my sort of naivety or inexperience. The day I went into their offices, to sign the deal, thinking I was going to get a check of 250 grand, they just said, well, somebody up high has said we can't do that deal, so it's going to be 150, but we'll increase the commission rate so you'll earn more over time to more than cover the 100 grand we're just chipping.
Right.
So I didn't have much choice, so I took the deal.
Right. Yeah. I hear that happens quite often.
Yeah.
This kind of concept.
Yeah.
Fish and chips. They're kind of fishing for the deal, and then they'll chip you. And were you didn't have an advisor or anyone sort of consulting with you whilst you're doing the deal? Were you sort of self-advised? Or?
No, I did have a broker, but he was pretty useless, actually.
Right. Okay.
Right. I found them. I did most of the negotiations, but he still got a
commission.
Fee. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, that happens. I'm sure there was other challenges later on in your career as you were sort of buying and selling other companies, but those early stage experiences, I'm sure, put you in good stead.
Well, you learn. I've had 6 businesses now, and
so what are we up to now? 3.
So that was number 3.
All right. Well, let's just.
No, so that was not. So that was number 2, wasn't it? Wang, then Finale.
Yeah.
That was so that was number 2, but then 4 years later, I bought it back.
You bought back Finale?
Yeah.
Did you? What's that story?
Well, Data Sciences wanted to offload anything that they regard as non-core.
Right.
So I found out that they were looking to sell the business. So I made a play to buy it back. And then part of that strategy, or to allow us to execute, it was buy it back, but at the same time, we're going to merge with another software provider in the financial advice space. We do back office with Finale. They do front office point of sale software. It was a company called AsureSoft, who had a product called PenCalc.
Okay. Yeah.
So we agreed, look, we'll merge the businesses as long as we can successfully buy it back from Data Sciences,
Right.
now part of IBM.
Okay.
And that's what happened.
You bought it back.
Bought it back and merged it, and pretty much carried on, actually.
Right. What's interesting to me as well is this. Sometimes I speak to founders who are very passionate about a sector, an industry, and have grown up in it and have got an idea to do it better or something. But you find yourself listening to this story in financial services, which you didn't necessarily have a passion for. It wasn't something you said, I just want to come in and disrupt financial services. Just you probably more by accident than anything, you found yourself in that. The guy who originally who you met, who wrote the Finale software, and that took you down a particular path, then, didn't it?
Yeah,
it wasn't as if you had a passion for it.
Wasn't planned. Didn't know the industry. It was just opportunistic.
Yeah,
and I guess a little bit risky, because we bought the rights to the product. I spent money on marketing, to distribute the leaflets through the magazine, and started to hire a few people. So no, I've never really been what I would say emotionally involved with any of the businesses.
Yeah, you just see the numbers, the opportunity,
and
what you can create from that.
Yeah.
And whilst you're going through these deals, are you thinking from the beginning, I need to work out an exit. I need to know how to turn this current business I'm buying for X and do 5X, 10X or whatever. I need to get a valuation and an exit right from day one. Do you think that way?
Not until that point. Right. So it was really more about lifestyle. I can earn good money out of this business. We can have a nice lifestyle.
Right.
And we had good earnings with the Wang business. We had good earnings with Finale during the earn-out. But because I was merging with another business, more mature people, a bit more experienced, they'd borrowed a bit of money to do the deal. So then it did become more about, well, we've got to build it and then we're going to sell it. And we sold it about 2 years later.
Okay.
To somebody you'll know, but your audience would probably never heard of, a gentleman called Ken Davey.
Yeah.
Who had a big network of financial advice firms.
Yeah.
Probably a few thousand IFA firms were under the DBS network.
Yeah.
DBS wanted to roll our software out to all of those firms, so it was cheaper for them to buy the business.
Right. Okay.
So we sold them the business.
Okay. And that was a successful exit for you then, and your other partners?
Well, like most deals, it was an earn-out.
Yes.
So there was some cash up front. It was the total deal was millions.
Right.
So there's a bit of cash up front, but there's an earn-out. So we all signed up to this, and they were up in Huddersfield. And as is often the case, we were in the lawyers' offices till gone midnight. Eventually signed the deal. Went back to the hotel with my two business partners, and I said, "I'm quitting. I don't want to do the earn-out."
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm going to move on because I've heard about this thing called the internet.
All right. Okay.
So
it was about that time then. Internet was
1997.
Right.
So I walked away from what would have been a very good, easy earn-out.
Just because you saw another opportunity.
Yeah. I started the business. I've run it within Data Sciences. I don't really want to do a third version of it.
Right.
Yeah, it's getting a bit mundane. I want some new excitement.
I'm getting that impression, because to walk away from, and if it was a attractive, lucrative earn-out, you just had to stick around for another couple of years.
Yes, it was like best part of £1 million over 2 years.
Right, which for most people, certainly back in 1997,
it's a lot of money.
Yeah,
but this internet thing was sort of coming to town.
Yeah.
So I went to somebody I knew who worked in Finale early days, so a sort of a techie, if I can call him that.
Yeah.
So can you explain what this internet thing is? Because I'm hearing more and more about it. It sounds quite exciting.
Yeah.
So he, went online, showed me what a website was, explained what email was, and I thought, I want to get involved in this.
Right.
Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so I rang my old business partner from the Wang business,
Right.
Brian, and said, I'm going to start an internet business. He said, I've been thinking about doing the same. I said, well, let's do it together. And we came up with the name Screen Pages,
Okay.
because it's going to be like Yellow Pages, but online.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So every business, financial advisor, plumber, taxi firm, everyone's going to need a website. So let's call it Screen Pages. And because it's a sort of media type business, we should get an office in Covent Garden.
Okay.
So took out a lease on an office, kitted it out nicely, which is one thing I've always done. I've always spent a lot of money on office furniture on the basis if I'm going to spend 8, 10, 12 hours a day in that environment, I want it to be nice.
Okay.
And we hired a bunch of telesales people, couple of techies, bought them all nice fancy Apple computers on the blower again.
So you get the techies to build these websites.
Yeah.
And you get salespeople to sell them.
Yeah.
Just
But we
cold
didn't build
calling.
any because we couldn't sell any.
Oh, really? Why is that? Why couldn't you?
Too early.
Yeah, too early.
Too early.
Yeah.
People just didn't get it. Not interested.
That's the thing now. You can't imagine that now.
No.
The people couldn't get. But I was around in those days, and the concept of buying things on the internet and what have you, and putting your credit card details in. No
Oh,
chance.
but even just having a web page, why do I want a web page? Why is anyone ever going to come there? How will they ever see it?
Yeah.
Trying to persuade them to build an online shop, I mean, that was a different conversation altogether.
Right.
And
So it was tough early days, just getting any traction.
it
people to
nearly
engage.
broke me.
Really?
Yeah.
God. Because you were too early.
Too early. I'd thrown a load of money at it. It's all my money. And
I was going to ask you about that. It was you self-funded.
Yeah.
Yes, you didn't.
So the
borrow
money I
funds.
got from selling Finale, the money I got up front, having walked away from the earnout, sort of went into starting this business.
Is that what you've done quite often? You've taken effectively profit and proceeds and rolled it into the next thing.
Yeah.
Maybe bought yourself something nice along the way.
course,
But, of course. Yeah. I'm getting that impression. But beyond that, you said, I'm just going to go and invest in the next thing.
But it got to the point where I thought, I've just got to, Brian, you've got to go. Sorry, everyone, it's not working. I've burnt a load of money. We've had no income.
Yeah. After how long did that? At what point did you say?
A year.
Took about a year. You thought we're getting nowhere
Going
here.
nowhere.
Yeah.
And I had the tax man after me for some tax I owed. Kids in private school. So I had to sell the toys in the garage.
Wow. That was painful.
It was tough. It was a really horrible time, actually.
You said it nearly broke you.
Yeah.
The whole period.
Yeah, we put the house up for sale.
Was that, when you look back, was that the toughest time you've had on your journey?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And looking back on it, how did you get through it? How did you build the resilience just to keep going?
Well, I guess desperate measures. It's the only time in the last 39 years I've been on somebody else's payroll.
Right.
So I thought, I need some income. I'm going to have to get a job. I saw an advert in the Sunday Times, tech company advertising for sales roles. Got the job. And did a good job for them for about 7 or 8 months. But then by which time the internet was getting a bit of momentum.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'm going to have another go. And coincidentally, Victor, who wrote Finale, calls me from Miami and says, I've written a piece of e-commerce software. So you can now build online shops at a fraction of the cost that other people are charging. Do you want the UK rights?
Okay.
So I thought, let's go again.
Okay.
So I did a deal with Victor, got the rights to his software, back on the phone, cold calling multi-channel retailers. So people that primarily had a shop, but they also were selling off a catalogue.
Right.
So if they're selling off a catalogue, they've got all the photography for the products that need to go on the website. They're our target market.
Okay. So was this Screen Pages reinvented? Or
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And did it keep the name Screen
Yeah,
Pages?
I kept the business there.
Yeah.
Just left it on the shelf for 7 months.
Yeah. Okay.
And the business that I worked for 7 months, they they become good friends, the founders of that business.
Yeah, okay.
And in fact, the CEO of that business who hired me, a few years later, I hired him as my CEO of Screen Pages.
Wow. It strikes me that there's a strong importance of having a network. I mean, it sounds like you've gone back to people that you were in business with 10 years ago and before, and then they circled back later on as well. I guess there's a great deal of importance in building a strong network.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that, but you're right.
Yeah, because you mentioned you've gone back and forth. Various people who've been in part of your historical journey then sort of reappear again.
Yeah.
Down the line. And I guess that's part of the point is try not to make any enemies along the way. Don't burn your bridges as you go, because you never know when someone might be helpful for you.
Well, and it's something I say to people on a regular basis. Don't never burn your bridges. You never know when you're going to meet somebody again. And I'd like to think that with all of these businesses, we've been fair and commercial, and done everything correctly. And hopefully, there's nobody out there sort of saying bad things about me.
Yeah, hopefully,
other than those that I fired.
Yeah, fair enough. So what happened then was sort of Screen Pages 2.0, as it were.
Yeah.
What was the...
Well, it was still a tough gig, trying to persuade people to have an online shop.
So you're still now, what, 98, 99?
98.
Yeah.
And I wish I'd taped some of the phone conversations, like the cold call to the finance director at Next Clothing. No, we're never going to sell clothes on the internet. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it was just like one after the other.
Yeah.
Kate Middleton's parents had a mail order business. Had the same conversation with Carol, Kate's mum. People will never buy our stuff on the internet. But I said, give it a go. Come on, it won't cost you a lot of money. Let's have a go. So they were one of our early clients.
Oh, really? Okay.
And
they just took a risk.
Took a risk, and as did a few others, and then it just took off.
Yeah.
And we ended up building the first generation online shops for some big brands: Fat Face, White Stuff, French Connection, Matalan. It was good.
I guess even then, I mean, it shows you how early you were in 97. And looking back, and it probably was never going to succeed. But a year later, and things were beginning to move faster then, weren't they? When the internet and beginning to sort of speed up. So then, but you would have been one of the early companies then coming and knocking on those doors, and you're getting a few early adopters.
Early adopters. We got a good brand, good reputation.
Yeah.
I spent heavily again on marketing to raise the profile of the business. So there was a trade magazine that went out to all of these multi-channel retailers. So, we just spent quite a lot of money just to position ourselves as the market leader. So then we started getting some good inbound interest, including Matalan.
Yeah.
You know Matalan?
Sure, yeah.
I'd never heard of Matalan back then because they weren't very active down in the south.
Right.
Because they originated from Skelmersdale near Liverpool.
Okay.
Anyway, they called up one day and said, we've seen some of your work. We'd like you to come up and talk about building our website. So, and they're long, 5-hour drive. Yeah. So about 6 a.m, I'm just about to leave the house. I got to the top of the drive and I thought, what am I doing? Put it into reverse, went back to bed.
Really?
And I rang them up and said, look, you're a long way away. Just find somebody local.
Okay.
Thanks for your interest. And not really realizing, the strength or the profile that Matalan had in retail. Anyway, a few weeks later, I get a phone call from their marketing director. We really would like to see you. Please, can you come up? So I did. Okay. Obviously, I changed the price on the slide deck I was going to present.
Obviously, yeah.
And they said, after a couple of meetings, we'd love to do business with you, but we just got to come down and see your setup. It's part of our due diligence.
Okay.
So, and we're running the business from home. Converted building in the garden.
The Covent Garden.
Not the Covent Garden's gone. I've bought myself out of that one. Right. So we're at home. I've got 3 web designers and me using Victor's software, but Victor's in Miami. So anyway, Matalan are coming. So we've got to put a show on here. Right, Rosie, I'm setting up a computer for you. You're going to be our receptionist. You've got to look like you're really busy.
Yeah.
I'll have a word with Jeff and near neighbour. I'll get him to call every 10 minutes, and you can pretend it's prospects that are calling.
Yeah.
And we get a couple of other freelancers to come and spend the day here. So it looks like we're a business on the up.
That's what you call fake it till you make it, isn't it? Just you got to give the impression
Yeah.
that you are exactly
And
that. And I guess they became
we won
customers.
Watalan, and we had them as clients for about 5 or 6 years.
Right. Fantastic. I'm always intrigued about the concept of timing in this, and I've sort of looked at the tech industry and some of these big US firms, and there's been a lot of research on this, and it's shown that you can be the best business, the best people, and the best idea, but if your timing's wrong, it's likely to fail.
Yeah.
So all those things have got to come together. It's got to be a good product, a good service, good offer, a good team, hopefully. But if you can be too early or you be too late.
Yeah, but timing's critical. So we were too early with screen pages.
Yeah.
And I sort of was too late in selling it. Yeah, I should have sold it at its peak.
Right.
But I hung on to it too long, and it got to the stage where most retailers wanted to bring it in house and have control.
Sure.
So the business is still going.
Oh, is it? Screen pages. Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you exit it then?
So Roger, who I worked for 7 months, I hired him as my CEO.
Yeah.
And during that time, so as well as doing retail e-commerce websites, we were building websites for financial advice firms.
You keep coming back to the financial advice again, don't you? Yeah.
Because they knew me from the Finale days, and they all needed a website, and so the business was sort of split in two. And through the activity of building websites for financial advice firms, I came up with the idea of a new product called Staff Care, which we were going to white label to IFAs for them to put it in the hands of their corporate clients to better communicate to their employees their total reward package. So basically, Roger did a buyout of the retail screen pages. I spun out Staff Care as a new business. So that was business number 5.
Right. So at that point, so you were out of screen pages then. You exited.
Well, I didn't exit immediately.
Right. But you left the day-to-day operation.
Left the day-to-day operations. I was still the major shareholder. Roger had a little bit, and I got going on Staff Care. But then after a while, I decided I don't like owning a business that I'm not managing day to day.
Right.
So I'm going to sell it.
Okay.
And Roger did a management buyout.
Oh, is that what happened? He bought it off
Well,
you?
it wasn't quite as simple as that. I sold it to another company, a big print company, who were doing the catalogs for these people we were building the websites for.
Okay.
They bought it. Roger tried to do an MBO, but couldn't get the funding together. But then a year later, a print company got into trouble. I had to offload anything non-core, so Roger bought it for £1.
Okay.
So it
worked out well for Roger.
It worked out very well for Roger.
Very good. And it's still going now?
Roger's wife also joined the business,
Yeah.
Sarah. She took over running of the business, and she just sold it.
Wow. It's fascinating, all these twists and turns along the journey. But I get the impression, Phil, that you like the excitement of startup.
Yes.
Really, just it's a new idea, a new thing that you can control.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this Staff Care, because this ended up, I think, becoming like probably your biggest exit that you had. Is that right? As it evolved.
Yeah, and with each of the businesses, the exit each time has got better.
Yeah.
And Staff Care needed financial backing. So it's the first of my businesses really where I'd used other people's money.
Right.
So, I was introduced to the world of venture capital, which was a whole new subject matter for me.
Yeah.
And I got lucky. I got an angel investor that I met at a bar in a ski resort when I was on a lad's holiday. Elaine, bless her. She was just coming out of a divorce, looking where to put her money. So I persuaded her to invest in my new startup.
Wow.
And then soon after got venture capital backing as well. And then here we go again.
Wow, I'd like to just ask you about that. Fundraising is of a lot of interest to people, particularly early days as they're getting started, as they're trying to scale a business, getting access to capital. And I read somewhere that you're not a big fan of VCs. You'd rather focus on angels and people without that sort of day-to-day involvement that a VC always has. What are your thoughts on fundraising?
I wouldn't use those words. I'm not a fan, because I've been very fortunate to have the backing of two venture capital firms.
Right. Okay.
I would choose to use angels first,
Right.
and exclusively if you could get enough of them and get sufficient funding.
Mm.
And I say that because often their terms are a bit more friendly.
Yeah.
Venture capital firms often look for sort of pref terms,
Mm.
and a seat on the board and things like that. So my preference would be to get angel funding.
Yeah.
But like I said, I've worked with two venture capital firms. So
And it's been successful.
They've been successful, and I've been very lucky, because you do hear horror stories where they sort of take control and they duff up the founders and eventually kick you out. We were very lucky that the venture capital firm that invested in staff care, very supportive, even to the point where we ran out of money quicker than we thought we would, so they then did a second round.
Okay. Yeah.
And just throughout the whole journey, they were a very supportive business. And in my most recent business, the fintech Cushion, which we sold to NatWest 2 years ago, that was also venture capital backed. Angels initially,
Right.
bit of crowdfunding, and then venture capital.
Okay. So what's the relationship between the staff care and Cushion? They're
Nothing.
separate business. So again, I'm just trying to follow the journey and the path. So you sold staff care in the end.
Staff care, it was a long journey, actually. That was the longest journey.
Right. How long was it?
8 years.
Right.
But timing, we sold it at exactly the right time.
Okay.
Because 2012, automatic enrollment for pensions was introduced. We repositioned the staff care software so we could manage auto enrollment. So we were first to market with an auto enrollment software product. And obviously every business has got to have auto enrollment software. Every business has got to put every employee into a pension scheme. You need some software to manage it.
Sure.
We had the software product, and the route to market was through financial advice firms who were selling the pension scheme to these corporates. And Simply Biz, Ken Davey, who we sold a finale
so Ken
to.
comes back again.
Ken comes back
story,
again,
right?
says, "I've heard about your business. Could you come up to Huddersfield and talk to us?"
Okay. Back in the car.
So I thought I was going up there to talk about a sort of reseller licensing deal. And he said, "No, I want to buy the business."
Okay.
And I'd already decided this is a great time to sell this business. And we've been doing it for 8 years. I'd quite like to get an exit.
Yeah.
I've got Elaine and the venture capital firm who have been very patient, would quite like to get an exit.
Yeah.
So it's a good time to sell, and a great growth story with auto enrollment. So we sold the business to Simply Biz.
Okay. So that's one where you got the timing right.
Yeah, we got time spot on. And it's a good deal for me, good deal for our investors. But I'm locked into another earnout.
Yes. And you're expected to still participate and be involved
this
in the
time
business.
I was expected to stay.
Right. Okay.
And it was a fairly flexible earnout in terms of timing.
Right.
That we could sell our remaining shares at the end of year 3, 5, or 7, I think it was.
Right.
And I stayed for a little while and got to the point where I decided it's time to move on.
How long did you stay for?
2 years.
Okay, you didn't even do the 3 years.
No, and I went into the office one Monday morning, sat at the desk. We had about 70 people in our office, and then about 40 people in Poland.
Okay.
And I had an MD that I'd brought into the business, who was the bloke at Data Sciences that bought my finale business.
They come back again, don't they? Yeah.
So I hired him as my MD. And I went in one Monday morning, sat at the desk about 9 o'clock, and I thought, I don't want to do this anymore. So I rang Rosie. He said, "What are you doing?" "Nothing. Let's go to Brighton for the day. I'm done." And so that was the day I decided I'm out.
And presumably gave up some of the earnout, or did you negotiate that?
I made a decision. So this is one of my worst decisions. Okay. Another bad moment in my career.
We can all learn from them.
Yeah. I miscalculated what the earnout was going to pay me. through some intricate details around the treatment of software development and whether you take that cost into the P&L or whether you capitalize it.
Right.
And I misinterpreted some of the rules. And so I gave notice, I'm going to sell my shares. Once you give notice, you can't retract.
Right.
And I'd had, in my head, thought it was going to be worth this much.
Yeah.
And I got a letter back from their lawyers saying our calculation is it's only this much.
Right.
And it was a horrible moment.
So that miscalculation cost you.
Yeah, just because I was trying to avoid legal fees.
Mm.
So yeah, another lesson learned. Don't.
What are your thoughts on earnouts in general? Often you can't avoid them. A lot of deals are done with earnouts and of varying lengths in time.
Yeah.
But if you were to do it again and go in and there's an earnout, I mean, how would you take, most advantage of any sort of negotiated earnout?
Yeah, as you said, most deals there's an earn-out element.
Yeah.
And many of them go not very well.
Yes.
And sometimes it's because the new owners meddle with the business and maybe try and grow it too fast and just don't execute well.
Yeah, and you've got no control over that anymore because you've sold the business just on an earnout. So
yeah, you can maintain some control. So when we sold it to Simply Biz, we had an agreement that was called seller's protection.
Right.
So it's certain things that Simply Biz could do and couldn't do.
Mm.
So you can protect against it, but the reality was I guess I just got a bit tired of the business and I wanted to move on.
Hi, just a quick pause. If you're getting value from this episode, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit subscribe and leave a rating or a review. It's honestly the best way to support the show, to help more people find it, and to make sure that future episodes get even better based on your feedback. Thanks for being here. And now back to the show.
And in the last business, Cushion, which was the most successful of my businesses, this is the fintech that we sold to NatWest 2 years ago.
Yeah.
There's about 8 people in that business, including my son, Ben, who was my first hire as head of sales at Cushion. They're all locked into a 3-year earnout.
Right.
They've got about another 9 months to go.
They're still there now. Yeah.
They're still there. I didn't want to be part of the earnout. I wanted a cash and run.
Right.
So I purposely sort of engineered it. So, my position was I was for surplus to requirements.
Yeah. Which I think is something that any business owner ought to do.
Yes.
In the years leading up to an exit, is just make yourself redundant effectively so that you can happily, they don't need you. The buyer doesn't need you
Absolutely.
to show up every day. So you've done that intentionally ahead of time.
Yeah.
So you could just walk. And so you weren't subject to an earnout then on
Correct.
Cushion.
Yeah.
I'd love to just spend a few moments talking about Cushion because it's public information. The exit was 160 million.
The headline was 170 million.
170.
So 144 million paid out in cash on day one for 85%.
Right.
The remaining 15% were with the management team as part of the earnout.
Right.
So 144 million for 85%. Equates to 170 million. That was the headline. But actually, the true enterprise value was about 210 million because they wrote off about 40 million of debt.
Right. Okay.
So it was a good deal.
It was a very good deal. And I guess you were just learning. You've been learning all the way through that, starting off with some smaller deals and self-funded, and you grew and you grew. And this was the big one. Was this the one that it was VC backed from an early stage, so you had access to capital?
Yeah. So the founder, the original founder, is a chap called Ben Pollard.
Yeah.
Ben's an actuary.
Right.
So he'd had the idea a few years before, spent evenings and weekends building his product. I got introduced to him, and at this time Ben was a one-man band, on his own with a desk, and we got introduced, and I quite liked I liked what he was doing. So long story short, we agreed to join forces, but he'd started it. It was his business. I was just gonna, if you like, help him get it going.
Right.
And at the time, I didn't particularly need to do anything.
Yeah.
But it looked interesting.
Yeah.
So I said, Ben, look, you focus on building the tech. I'll build and manage the business, and I'll put some money in, and I'll go to my investors in staff care, including Elaine, that got a good return on that one, and see if they want to follow me again.
Right.
So we got about 7 people. We raised 750k on a £10 million valuation. And we were projecting that year revenues of £18,000.
Okay.
So they said,
That's a punchy valuation.
how can you justify 10 million for a business at this very early stage?
Yeah.
I said, well, this is how we're going to get it to 100 million.
Right.
So focus on that.
So it was a plan.
It was a plan. And I was very clear, this is a 5-year play.
Right.
Because I don't want to do more than 5 years.
Yeah.
And I'm going to build it, and I'm putting some of my own money in, and we're going to sell this in about 5 years for 100 million or more.
Was that the first time you had ever written a documented plan and a strategy built to exit from day one, or had you historically done that?
No, there was no real plan. It was just
All right. It was
a vision.
It was a story.
Yeah.
That you told. This wasn't documented with.
We had a PowerPoint presentation about,
All right.
this is how we're going to go to market, and this is the competitive landscape, and blah blah. And here's some projections, which of course you never hit. And yeah, it was just, again, a gut feeling. I like the look of this software. We're going to focus on the workplace. There's many similarities to staff care in terms of how we go to market, who we sell through, who we sell to. I'll bring Ben in, my son, as head of sales, because he's done a great job at staff care for me.
Yeah.
What can go wrong? We know what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in this case, nothing did go wrong. Well, I'm sure there was a few bumps along the way, but you had a massively successful exit. But I'm detecting there's a pattern here, whether you've observed it yourself or not. You've got the opportunity. You engage with techies, let's say, people who can create this technology. You probably admit that that isn't necessarily your core skill. Is like writing software and creating the, but you can see an opportunity. You see, this could be very successful. You've got a great network, and clearly you're good at positioning and selling. Let's face it. And the combination of all those things has been, clearly part of your success. There seems to be a pattern there. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not at all technical.
It's incredible to think that you're known as a serial fintech entrepreneur who builds, scales, exits his companies, and you're not a techie at all.
I'm not at all a techie, and I think it's a bit of a joke in the office that I'm just so technically useless. But spot an idea,
yeah,
and I guess I'm good at taking what can be sometimes seen as complex products or subject matters and just packaging it in a way that people will understand it and will want to buy it, and then how we then go to market. So somebody once said, look, you've got a playbook as to how to launch a business.
Yeah.
I guess that's the way of looking at it.
Yeah.
And it's sales led. You can have the best product in the world, but you haven't got sales, you haven't got a business. Xerox taught us you can have a fairly inferior product, but you can still sell.
Yeah.
So, big focus on sales, spend marketing on building the brand, so, you get a reputation, you build a profile, customers start coming to you, your eventual acquirer will spot you because you're building a brand, and they hear the noise in the market, and hire good people. Cushion was my most enjoyable business, not just because we had a great exit, but I just really enjoyed the whole journey, partly because I'd learned how to just let go, and just delegate, and bring in the best people we can afford. And we couldn't afford much early days, but we attracted some very good people, persuaded them to take a pay haircut, but they're going to do well out of their share options.
Right.
And I just did I say so myself, but I just did a good job at orchestrating that business.
Yeah. You knew your role by then.
Yeah.
You were more of that kind of visionary founder, just putting the whole story together and just reminding people the journey that they were on.
Yeah. And I spent a lot of my time fundraising and investor relations.
Right.
Because we did 3 acquisitions at Cushion.
Okay.
And that was our sort of lucky accident, because the initial proposition was a savings and investment platform, which we were selling through the workplace. So employers would encourage their employees to save and invest through the Cushion platform, making savings directly from payroll. But getting people to put their net earnings into a savings product's quite hard.
Sure.
So we pivoted and we decided to move into workplace pensions as well as workplace savings.
Okay.
And to make that move happen, we acquired a pension provider, which just got us through all the regulatory hoops quickly, gave us a bit of scale. It was a bold move because at the time we had a couple of thousand savers and we had 10 million of assets under management.
10 million?
10 million
Okay.
in workplace ISAs.
Okay.
We bought a pension company with 200 million.
Okay.
So it was a game changer overnight. But we needed the capital to do that deal.
Yeah.
And we had a potential investor. And they weren't fintech investors. They invested in other things. And they said, look, we'll only do the deal if you give us security against your personal assets.
Okay, we're back to that again. You
So
thought you'd left that behind, but yeah.
So put the house back on the market or put it up as security.
Wow.
But I didn't think too hard about it because we were very confident about what was going to happen. But anyway, that's how we got going. And we did 2 more acquisitions. So I spent a lot of my time fundraising.
Yeah, fundraising and getting involved, looking out for these acquisitions that you could, engage
I wasn't
with,
that involved in that because of the team that we put in place.
Okay.
And I'd brought in a very good chairman from the pensions industry who sort of took a lot of the lead on that. Very good MD in the business, again, from the industry.
So fundraising was your main role, which is kind of back to selling, getting money out of people. That was the hardest thing to do. Yeah. So you were the man for the job, clearly. So tell me about, how did the NatWest deal come about?
I got a call one day. I got introduced to them actually, to the CEO of Coutts, which is part of NatWest.
Yeah.
And the CEO of Coutts was looking after the sort of the wealth division within the bank.
Yeah.
They wanted to grow assets. They had spotted that workplace pensions was a potential way to grow assets.
Yeah.
25% of corporate Britain banks with NatWest.
Really? Okay. All right.
They became aware of us. We got introduced. Again, initially it was, we're interested in licensing in your software. And then it was, we'd quite like to invest. And then it was, we'd actually want to take control. So that conversation just sort of developed over time. And we got to a point where we were ready to do a deal. But lessons learned from early days. I was ready for the price chip.
Okay, right. Yeah.
And we were very clear what we wanted for the business. This is our 5-year goal. 5 years is coming up. I was quite keen to start engineering an exit. So it was just very fortunate that we had interest from NatWest. And as the deal negotiations sort of went on, there's always a risk that they're going to fall apart.
Of course. Yeah.
And I thought, well, we need to be in a strong position that we're not desperate to sell, and we can't let them sort of price chip us.
Yeah.
So I went to my angel investor network and said, this is what's happening. We've got good potential here to do a deal, which would give us all a good exit. But we need power to our elbow. I want to show a strong balance sheet. So can you all sort of chip in and do a loan, just so we can show them that if we don't do a deal with them, NatWest, we're good to carry on our own.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when the price chip came, we could just knock it out and say no.
And did it come?
Of course, yeah.
Of course, yeah. Okay. But this time you weren't desperate like you were before. You just wanted to get a deal, and you could have, I guess, just carried on anyway. You'd rather
we
not.
could have done. I was very keen to do the deal.
Yeah.
Because if we didn't do the deal, I'd be out there fundraising again.
Yeah.
But it was just, it was good timing.
But you thought strategically, and you'd learned your lesson from the past. It's inevitable.
It's going to happen.
They'll chip.
Yeah.
And I want to robustly respond to that from a position of strength. So look at our balance sheet. We're good We're good
Exactly.
with or without you.
And you've got to look at the value of the business to the acquirer.
Of course, yeah.
You know,
That's
okay, it's worth so much to us, or if we go and raise funding again, it's, you know, we might get a valuation of X.
yeah.
But what's it worth to
Yeah,
them?
plugged into their
And,
machine.
and like I
Yeah.
said, they've got around 25% of
Yeah.
businesses bank with NatWest.
Yeah.
27 billion a year is leaving NatWest bank accounts to pay monthly pension contributions, much of which is going to Scottish widows owned by Lloyds Bank.
Right. Okay.
So obviously, strategically,
Just-
NatWest is saying we want to hang on to those contributions,
course.
and we need a pension so that money can flow into our own pension.
Yeah, I'm sure that was part of your conversation when you're negotiating with them. You don't want this money leaving and go to a competitor.
Of course.
But I'm intrigued because it sounds like this came from effectively almost like an unsolicited approach. You kind of knew of them, you spoke to them, and they just started reaching out to you. A lot of founders I know who have exited, they talk about creating competitive tension and having a number of buyers all vying and sort of hopefully bidding up the price. But that wasn't something that you did in this case, was it? You didn't go to other alternatives and say, are you interested? Because NatWest are currently.
We had other inbound interest,
Right.
but we were all quite keen on doing a deal with NatWest
Okay.
because we could see the synergies.
Yeah.
We knew they had the cash to do a deal. They had the motive to do a deal. So we didn't get into a formal competitive process, but we did appoint brokers, advisors,
Right.
to help us get the deal across the line.
Right. Okay.
Um,
And indeed you did. And so that was a couple of years ago, and that was a great success. You took your money and run. Yeah, you could walk away because you'd thought about this in advance, not only in avoiding getting chipped on it, but knowing that you didn't want to be around.
yeah.
If you thought ahead, which again, the advice that I'm picking from that is, really plan ahead, think strategically, and anticipate all these negatives, these things that are bound to come at you. You'd be very lucky if you don't get these approaches, and know how you're going to react to them in advance of that. I'm just intrigued if you were to look back on it and all these deals that you've done and you've exited, you've sold, you've bought back, and what have you. If there's someone sort of watching or listening to this who's a founder who's thinking of an exit of their own business in, I don't know, a couple of years or something, what do they need to think about to maximize their multiple or their exit value? What are the sort of core things that you'd be doing or advising someone else?
Well, I think a lot of the things that we've touched on. So, timing. Yeah, why now? Why is now a good time to sell? That's an important factor. Make sure you're in a strong position so you don't have to sell.
Yeah.
Because that's where you potentially will get somebody will take advantage of that position. So be in a robust position, hit your forecasts, show good growth year on year, and potential for further growth, because obviously the new owners want to see growth and benefit from the upside. But so good sales is very important, hitting your forecasts, strong balance sheet, good reputation in the market. That's why I've always believed in spending well on marketing, brand building, and a competitive tension, ideally.
Yeah.
And then the decision is, do you appoint brokers or not, or do you do it on your own? And I've got sort of fairly mixed views on that, having worked with several.
Yeah, maybe it comes down to the broker or the advisor as opposed to, I don't know. I think it'd be challenging doing it on your own.
Yes and no.
Yeah. Well, you've done both, haven't you? Yeah.
Well, I've done both.
And successfully both.
Yeah. And on one of the deals where we raised money from venture capital, this is in the cushion business. There was, we got the money from somebody who was already in my black book. I'd been in conversation with for a few years. There was a very little added value from the broker, and even the VC said, why'd you waste your money appointing a broker? We'd rather just deal with the founders. But sometimes you need them just to get the deal across the line.
Yeah, exactly. No, I can see that. And so that was a couple of years ago. I guess you took a well-earned rest, chilled out a bit, maybe bought yourself something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. The answer to that is yes, every single time.
Of course, yeah.
Good for you. Why not? What have you been doing since then? Don't tell me you've done it again.
Well, I've been looking.
Okay.
I'm looking for the next big thing, and so we can do number 7. but I haven't found it yet.
Okay.
And also, I've got to wait for my Ben, to finish his earn out, another 9 months.
That'll come around quick
so
enough.
he can come on the journey with me.
Yeah. Well, that must be fun and exciting as well. Getting your son
Yeah.
on the journey and kind of teaching him everything that you've learned
Yeah.
over the years. I mean, so just taking that as an example, I mean, there's a kind of a question people ask, which is, looking back, what would you tell your young self when you first set up that Wang business? And I guess it's what you were telling Ben right now. What is your advice to young entrepreneurs or people who are aspiring entrepreneurs and want to get started in business with all the lessons you've learned over the years?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of things you can tell them and share with them from your experience. If it came down to one thing, I would be saying, don't be over reliant upon any one supplier or provider, whether that's supplier of product that you're selling or provider of your finance. Right. Because we suffered when Wang went out of business because we were a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
And I've been in a position where you're running out of cash, and you don't want to have one major shareholder in the business that can take advantage of you. Right. So I think that'd be one of the key things. And there's lots of other stuff. And to answer your question, what have I been doing? I've invested in quite a lot of tech businesses, generally early stage. I'm involved in 5 that I've invested in as an advisor or a NED, or in one case as a chairman. And a lot of my input is just that guidance and a sounding board, because generally in these businesses, not in all of them, but in many of them, they're first-time founders. So they've not been on the journey before. So you're just sharing your advice, helping them as they come across various hurdles.
Yeah.
And helping them hopefully on that journey, and at the right time get the business groomed, ready for sale, and just be a sounding board when they get into that process, because it's quite an emotional roller coaster when you're selling a business.
Yeah, for sure.
And people that have been in a sales process and it's fallen apart and they've lost their buyer will know what I mean by that.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm guessing it's as much a kind of a human journey as it is a business one. So if you're dealing and mentoring and coaching some of these founders through that, it's as much about what they're getting up to as a person day to day, how they're dealing with stress and anxiety and all the rest of it that comes at you, because you've had plenty over the years based on what you've shared here.
And I do it because I enjoy it.
Well, that was something I was going to ask you. I think it's a reasonable guess that you could be, should you choose, sitting on a beach or playing golf or doing something else. What is it that just keeps you going and keeps you interested in these new tech startups? Why do you do it?
Well, I sort of tried full-time in retirement and I didn't get on with it. So
you had a go.
Yeah. And it was not for me, because I like what I do, and I'm in a fortunate position that I don't need to work, and I don't regard it as work. It's like a hobby, and I enjoy it, and that's why I do it. And also, you get oversight of your investment. And I invest because I'm hoping to get a good return, but you go in with your eyes wide open, and conscious of the fact that about 8 out of 10 startups fail.
Yeah.
And another reason why I do it, like I said earlier on, is I'm sort of looking for the next big thing, and I hope I find it so we can go again.
Yeah, fantastic. I read somewhere else as well that you just love the concept of winning.
Yeah.
You want to win.
Yeah, it's a bit like a game, isn't it, really? We're launching a product into the market. Cushion was the most exciting.
Yeah.
As well, Screen Pages was as well, actually. If I take the businesses that I found most exciting, Screen Pages, because of the internet, it was like such a change to our lives.
Sure.
It was just an exciting time. And then building all these online shops for these big brands, despite the pressure of the early days, when it nearly broke me. That I enjoyed that business, although Rosie would tell me otherwise. She says you forget the stress.
Yeah. You just remember the good parts.
Yeah. And Cushion, because we were going into a very mature market. Pensions. These providers have been around for years. Legal and General, Standard Life.
Yeah.
And we're the first of the disruptors in workplace pensions. And I just found that quite thrilling and exciting to think we were going to take on the big boys. And we did. And we won.
Yeah. That's fantastic. And it's a great story. And there's all your entire journey is just, it's incredible. And the success you've had, and congratulations on that. I don't know about you, but there seems to me to be a vibe out there in the kind of business marketplace in the UK right now. It's a bit doom and gloom. It's a little bit negative. And I'm speaking to you now, a few weeks ahead of our esteemed Chancellor Rachel Reeves's budget. And I never, this podcast is not political in any way, but if she, by some miracle, which she should do, but she probably won't, picked up the phone to you now as an established entrepreneur, British entrepreneur, and said, Phil, can you give me some advice? Take your time, think about that one. I mean, but what would you say, honestly? I know it's there are challenges, being in government and all this sort of trying to balance the books, etc. But what would you say to her to encourage entrepreneurship and British business?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't answer the phone, actually.
Yeah, I thought you might say that. Yeah. But if you did.
She's got a tough gig. So, I recognise there's a problem at the minute. So they've got to get the money from somewhere. I would say, don't drive the money makers out of this country. You've already done a number of things that are making startups less attractive. Entrepreneurs relief was reduced from 10 million to 1 million several years ago. So the benefit of only paying 10% capital gains tax pretty much gone away. That was one thing. Recent changes with capital gains tax going up didn't go up as much as we all anticipated. In fact, I when we were planning to sell the business, when Rishi was in power, there was talk about capital gains tax going from 20% up to income tax levels, like 45%. Yeah. I would have left the country if that was happening. And I looked into it and spent a lot of time looking into it. And I didn't want to leave the country, but I didn't want to pay 45% of my hard-earned earnings to the tax man. But I was sort of okay with 20%. So I'd be saying, just be very careful about further moves that you make that are affecting wealthy people, business founders, because if you keep hitting them, they're going to go, and the money will leave the country. Maybe pay a bit more attention to some of those people down there that aren't working, that are claiming benefits. Get them back to work.
Yeah, I think that's well said, and I think that's the general consensus amongst a lot of entrepreneurs I speak to. People are not, adverse to paying tax along the way, but if you make it so difficult, because as you just said, 8 out of 10 startups fail anyway, and people do sometimes lose their house and lots of other things. There's a lot of risk that's been sort of put on the table by these founders and starters, but they are the engine room of the British economy, of any decent economy around the world, and you make it so difficult for them, then they do begin to take steps to whether it's to relocate overseas or just not even start a business in the first place.
And just people generally, there's rumours at the minute that they're going to put capital gains tax on your main residence. Well, that's just changing the rules. Come on. Many of us have invested in our homes. I've been in my home 36 years. So just things like that will make you very, very unpopular. It might not mean people are leaving the country. It just means we won't sell our house.
Yeah, sure.
Well, that's going to kill the housing market.
The whole market will just freeze up.
Yeah,
exactly. Well, I hope she does call you, and I hope you give her that advice. But just as and it's been a brilliant conversation, Phil. I've really appreciated your time. I've just got a couple of more questions for you. I'm intrigued. Are you someone that reads books, sort of consumes podcasts, anything like that? Are there any resources that you found helpful in the past that others might as well on your own business journey?
I've only just started listening to podcasts.
Okay.
And you were the catalyst for that.
Yeah, there you go. Welcome to the podcast gang.
And I only listen to business related podcasts.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I don't read a lot. I generally only read on holiday.
Right.
And I read business books.
Yeah.
And normally sort of biographies.
Yes, I'm a fan of biographies.
Because I find them inspiring.
Yeah.
So
anyone sort of stick out in particular that you've enjoyed?
Yeah, two that I read recently, Shoe Dog,
Yes.
Phil Knight,
Yeah.
founder of Nike.
Yeah.
I found that fascinating because I had no idea about the startup journey he went on.
Yeah.
That was a very good read. And earlier this year, I read Michael Dell's book.
Did you? Okay. I haven't read
Michael
that.
Dell
Yeah.
of Dell Computers, and the book's called Play Nice But Win.
Mm.
And I found that again fascinating. And I think I like to think that again I've done that. You know, we've been commercial, we've been fair. You know, we've played nicely. You know, we've beaten our competitors in a nice way, but we've won. So I found that book quite inspiring, and again, just the journey he'd been on.
Yeah.
So those two stand out for me. So
No,
I'd encourage any of your audience to
Yeah.
read those. They're good books.
I think I found the title of this episode when we published this with our conversation here today, Play Nice But Win, because that was definitely his theme. An interesting thing about a lot of these books is we often hear the success story, and Nike's a great success and Dell's a great success, but you know, oh my God, some of the challenges that these people have had going through their business life, and they're not often reported on. So the biographies and the autobiographies are great to learn about that, and as you say, inspiring.
And you learn more from failure.
Yeah.
I learned a lot in that tough period at Screen Pages. And so and there's nothing to be ashamed of. We didn't fail, thank God, but we got close. But you know, you learn from those as a person and as a business owner.
Yeah, absolutely. Last question. The question I ask everyone. I'm particularly intrigued in your answer to this as someone who likes a Ferrari and a Porsche and all a range of other cars, which I think was sparked back in your early days in the car park back in that original company. But I like to talk about the concept of wealth and really try to define what true wealth is. True wealth means different things to different people. It might not just be about money. What's your own personal definition of true wealth?
Well, I guess in my case, I can now afford the lifestyle I've been living for many years.
Okay.
And choice, you know, like I said, you know, I choose to work because I want to, because I enjoy it. I don't have to. So that's a nice position to be in. And I think also family security, you know, helping your family get into a good place. I've got 2 children, as I mentioned. I've now got 2 grandchildren. So, you know, you want to give them a leg up if you can, but still keep them hungry. So I think that they're the things that are important to me. There's still stuff that I'd like to do that I don't think I can afford to do. And I guess that's another reason why I'm thinking, let's go again.
Okay. Let's get another big exit.
Yeah. But yeah, we're in a nice position, and I'm very lucky. And I'm very thankful to Peter Smith for giving me my lucky break.
There you go.
God bless him. He's passed away.
Well done. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Brilliant conversation, and I think really helpful for our audience. If someone is sitting out there watching or listening to this and they have got the next big thing and they want to get in touch, or someone just wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way of contacting you?
LinkedIn.
Yeah. Check out your LinkedIn account.
I'm open for connections. Just message me. I'll always respond. If they want to send me their deck, I'll always have a look. You know, give them some feedback. And so,
brilliant.
just find me on LinkedIn.
Brilliant. Phil, thank you very much.
Thank you.